Now, our I would like to introduce the missionary who will provide the word. She is Evangelist Lee Maeja, Missionary Maeja. And if I can just tell you what she did before, she has graduated from theological seminary, and she has gone through many years of evangelist, and has received also her master's in biblical studies. And currently, she is working for the evangelist part in Seoul Pyongyang Church. So as she provides the word, may we be able to receive it. As she comes out, let us greet her by saying hallelujah with your right hand. Hallelujah. Thank you. I'm happy to see you all. At this time, I'm happy to be able to share this grace. Now, before, the pastor said that we had a new altar, right? A new podium, rather. And he said that it would be a big for me, and I think it's true. So today, through the main text that we just read, I would like to learn about the redemptive historical lesson behind the division of the land of Canaan. Now, the Israelites were at the closing stage of entering Canaan, right? And then the promise of the land of Canaan made, the Israelites came upon Joshua, who became the leader, right? So to us, as God promised to the Israelites the land of Canaan, what promise did he make to us? Because to the Israelites, he promised them Canaan, and that was their goal, right? But on this earth, what do we look forward to? What is our goal as we grow in our spiritual lives, right? Of course, first is the hope for the kingdom of heaven, but for us is transfiguration of life, right? And he has also provided us with the heaven. Yeah, before, when senior pastor was here, he mentioned that, hey, if you go to heaven, do you think you're going to rest and you're going to just not be doing anything? Do you know how busy you'll be? Now, it's not as bad anymore, but when he was here, we were so busy and we complained. And he would tell us that this is nothing. If you go to that world, you'll be even more busy. But the Israelites, as they came out of Egypt and entered Canaan, he saw their land. And I thought that we would be as busy as the Israelites were. So I hope that you would prepare for this by faith and look upon the kingdom of heaven in hope. So for 400 years, the Israelites were in Egypt enslaved, right? And they were slaves at the time. And after 40 years in the wilderness, they finally go into Canaan. Now, God promised this to Abraham, and the moment that the covenant of the torch was established, as we know, Canaan would be either we know that land of Canaan was, empty, and people there would welcome the Israelites with open arms, right? It wasn't like that at all. They needed to go in and still conquer the land. So for 400 years, they were slaves, and then 40 years in the wilderness. And when they would finally enter Canaan, they needed to actually drive out the Canaanites from the land and make that land their home. And that was a very rough process, right? However, this was an amazing work of God. And they conquered the land. And the fact that the Israelites had their own land, of course, was a fulfillment of the covenant of torch, but it was because God was with them and that he promised them. And for the Israelites who took that in by faith, that was how the land of God, the Israelites, were created. Which means that when it comes to this kingdom of heaven that we are to enter, by faith, we have to be able to go in with his will, and it is our duty to conquer it. So the Israelites went into Canaan and conquered the land. And in the midst of that process, I'm going to share a part of that process in history. Now, after the Israelites went into Canaan, they tented in Gilgal and they were planning on conquering Canaan. In Joshua chapter 5, verse 10, Joshua chapter 5, verse 10, it says, while the sons of Israel camped at Gilgal, they celebrated the Passover on the evening of the 14th day of the month on the desert plains of Jericho. So at BC 1446 in Kadesh Barnea, do you remember what happened? At 1446 BC. What happened in Kadesh Barnea? Think about it. What happened? But I'll tell you the answer. It was the incident of the 12 spies, right? So in order to conquer Canaan, there were Israelites who believed in it by faith that the promise of God was fulfilled. It's not exactly according to the entire Israelites, right? However, as God promised, even though God promised, they entered by faith, and there were people who actually obeyed his word that the conquering of Canaan was possible. But one thing we have to make note of is that at BC 1446 in Kadesh Barnea, there was that incident of the 12 spies. I will refer to it as incidents. But it was at this time that there were two people who were acknowledged. It was Joshua and Caleb that we know of. And among that, when it comes to that time period or the environment, we need to first look into Joshua chapter 14, verse 7. Joshua chapter 14, verse 7. Now Caleb is saying that at 40 years old, when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought word back to him as it was in my heart. So what it means is that Caleb, what he is talking about is that at BC 1446 in Kadesh Barnea, it was the time when they were out in Canaan to spy out the land. But now they they went to Canaan to spy out the land. And then they in the end, tented Gilgal in order to plan the attacks. And if you look in Joshua chapter 14, verse 10, Caleb was saying that he is confessing that he is 85 years old. So at BC 1446, it is past 1446. So it would be 1400, BC 1400. And that's when they were in Canaan and they conquered the land of Canaan. So as they were in the midst of conquering the land, we take that time, and through the History of Redemption series, we know that took approximately 6 years. And after conquering the land, to each of the tribes, they started distributing the land, right? Now here, the fact that the distribution started to each of the tribes, it also was provided to the tribes as to how they should conquer them. Now, this is also showing us as far as how our inheritance will be divided when we go up to heaven. If so, until we enter Canaan, this is what will happen when we go into Canaan, which is heaven, right? We may say that it has nothing to do with us at this moment because we haven't entered heaven yet, but this kingdom of heaven needs to be fulfilled in heaven as well as on earth. And that is how we can actually come across this earth sooner. So I ask, where is heaven? So some people say in heaven, in the kingdom of heaven. And when I ask as to how we can go there or when we can go there, they said we will go there when we die. Then I will respond by saying, then we should die faster, right? Isn't it difficult to live on this world? It's better for us to enter heaven sooner, right? Now, this is the moment, honestly. This moment is the time in which our faith is at its peak because we're learning the word, right? And at this peak, it'd be better for us to go into heaven sooner because this is a time of grace. It may seem less shameful, so on and so forth, but But when I answer that, they don't like that answer, but they want to enter heaven and they want to go there sooner, right? So heaven needs to be fulfilled on earth and in the end in that kingdom as well. If so, we need to conquer heaven on this earth. So this moment in which we are sitting needs to be heaven. Also, that kingdom of heaven in which he promised us will become ours. And in order for this to become ours, what should we do? And how can we act? So let us look into that. Now, from 1400, Joshua at 110 years old to the time that he died, for 10 years, right? So 1400 up to BC 1390, they were conquering Canaan, right? But this wasn't conquering, right? Little by little, but they took the land and they divided the land to each of the tribes from there, which tells us this.
There is.
So we see that Reuben, Dan, and Gad's tribe, they requested a certain part of distribution. And until, as he took to the two tribes and he provides them a certain land. Let us turn to Numbers chapter 34. Numbers chapter 34. Verse 14. Numbers chapter 34, verse 14. Verse 14. For the tribe of the sons of Reuben have received their according to their fathers' households, and the tribe of the sons of Gad according to their fathers' households, and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their possession. And in verse 15, the 2.5 tribes have received their possession across the Jordan opposite Jericho, eastward toward the sunrise. So still, this before they crossed the Jordan River, these 3 tribes wanted their inheritance, and God approved that. And then on the west side of Jordan River, when they were distributing the actual Canaan land of the Canaan, he gives it to. The north part was to the tribe of Joseph, and on the bottom was the tribe of Judah. So it was all the way towards Mount Sinai. So the two tribes were distributed. Were provided the land of Canaan first. And this is in Joshua chapter 15, verse 1. Joshua chapter 15, verse 1. Now the lot for the tribe of the sons of Judah according to their families reached the border of Edom, southward towards to the west wilderness of Zin at the extreme south. So to the sons of Judah, they were provided the southern part of the land. And then in Joshua chapter 16, verse 1, it says that the lot for the sons of Joseph went from the Jordan at Jericho to the waters of Jericho on the east into the wilderness, going up from Jericho through the hill country to Bethel, so north side. So to the two tribes, they were provided the lands first. And then, so in Gilgal, they tented right after entering Canaan. So they moved the tent to Shiloh. And then lastly, to the seven tribes, they were distributed the land. And that's in Joshua chapter 18, verse 1 and 2. Then the whole congregation of the sons of Israel assembled at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there, and the land was subdued before them. But there remained among the sons of Israel 7 tribes who had not divided their inheritance. Right? So, from the east, the 2.5 tribes received their inheritance, and then past Jordan River, the 2 tribes received theirs. So Manasseh, Dan received theirs, but it was the 7 tribes that did not receive. And then in Joshua chapter 18, verse 4, the 7 tribes did not receive any inheritance. But in verse 4, it says, "Provide for yourselves 3 men from each tribe so that I may send them, and that they may arise and walk through the land and write a description of it according to their inheritance. And they shall return to me." And then in verse 5 it says, "And they shall divide it into 7 portions. Judah shall stay in its territory on the south, and the house of Joseph shall stay in their territory on the north." And then verse 6, "And you shall write a description of the land in 7 divisions, and bring the description here to me. Then I will cast lots for you here before the Lord our God." So to one tribe, it was 3 each, so 21 people, right? They were to write the description. And then it says that it took 7 months. So for 7 months, they were making trips and writing the descriptions, and that's how they write the description or receive the lands. So at first they drew a lot. So they drew a lot, but in Numbers 26:55, they drew a lot in order to divide the land. Now, drawing the lot is to indicate that everything happens according to God. So in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 33, it says, "The lot is cast into the lap, but every decision is from the Lord," which means that we also say when people are gossiping, if there's no conclusion, or if they're discussing something, there's no conclusion, they may say, just leave it to God. So in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 33, it says that although a man is drawing the lot, the decision itself comes from God. So as they were distributing the land or dividing the land, it wasn't that these people who went out to write up the descriptions of the land came back and decided among themselves, but they drew a lot. But as they were drawing the lot, they were all confessing that the decision itself happened from God. And as they drew a lot, they couldn't put it back because they didn't like it, because they all believed that this was the plan of God. And the original meaning behind drawing a lot is to make judgment, to decide, meaning that this is the land that was decided by God for them. Also, the reason why they drew a lot was to also eliminate any disputes. Because for men, they all want to do what's easy for them, what's quickest for them, right? There's not a single person out there. Then they don't express it, but they want to take the easier route, right? And we all feel the same way. But in Proverbs 18, verse 18, it says, "The cast lot puts an end to quarrels and decides between the mighty ones." So, meaning that if you're louder, then you win usually, right? But there's nothing like that. Everything is fair in order to prevent any disputes, that they were all leaving it to God. So, by casting lots, that is how they divided the land. So, another thing here, each tribes had different number of people, and the environments, the situations for each tribes were different. So let's say that they cast a lot, but let's say my tribe, there are so many people, but we receive the smallest land, right? There would be a dispute there. But God doesn't just make decisions based on how we think. Secondly, so number one, they cast a lot. But number two, there was a law enacted, meaning that according to the number of tribe, the land that they inherited was generally the same amount. Let us turn to Numbers 26:52. Numbers 26:52. We read it before. Numbers 26, verse 52. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Among these, the land shall be divided as an inheritance according to the number of the names. To a larger group, you shall increase their inheritance, and to the smaller group, you shall decrease their inheritance." And then if we turn to Numbers chapter 33, verse 54, it says, "You shall maintain the land as an inheritance by lot according to their families. To the larger you shall give more inheritance, and to the smaller you shall give less inheritance. Wherever the lot falls to anyone, that shall be his. You shall pass on land as an inheritance according to the tribes of your fathers." So before, we said that the one who casts lot is a man, but the decision comes from God. And when we say that the ratio of this number is applied, it may be difficult, but because God is the one who enacts it, it is possible. And in Numbers chapter 26, verse 56, it says that corresponding to the selection by lot, their inheritance shall be divided between the larger and the smaller groups, right? And if you look at the original text of this, what we read is that they were to cast lot based on the number of the larger groups and the smaller groups. So there was this that was considered. And then Numbers chapter 26, verse 56 again, the translated version says this, that the tribes with more people will be mingled with the larger groups for selection of lot, and vice versa for the smaller group, meaning that the tribes with more people, they would cast lot based on the larger district, and vice versa for the smaller number of people in the tribes. So those with the larger groups, they would cast lot for the larger land. But what we need to consider is that tribe of Judah and tribe of Joseph first received the inheritance, and they received the largest land. But the tribe of Judah, if you look at Numbers chapter 26, verse 22, these are the families of Judah by those who were numbered of them, 76,500. So the tribe of Judah had 76,500, and at that time, among the tribes, that was a tribe with the second highest number of tribes, and the tribe of Joseph was, so Joseph was gave Ephraim and Manasseh to the father, and he was a part. He did not participate in the tribes. So when I say tribe of Joseph, I mean Ephraim and Manasseh. So they had a total of about 80,000 tribes, 80,000 people in that tribe. So they had the largest number of people. And in Numbers chapter 26:37, it says that the sons of Ephraim numbered 32,500, And then if you look in verse 34, it says that the tribe of Manasseh, it was 52,000. So as you looked at this, when we are distributed the land of Canaan, the tribe with the largest number of people received the largest land, which means this. We need to have more families, of course, but we also need to evangelize more in order for our church to revive so that we have more church members. That is how we can receive the largest land. So, whoever it may be, whoever you may be, everyone likes what's bigger and larger, right? And it's the same for God. God likes the larger numbers, and He likes the biggers. He likes what's biggest, which means that we need to be able to fill that bowl. So that means we need to have more children. We also need to evangelize more. We need to raise our children to be great people. We need to expand our businesses, and we need more employees if we do own businesses. So we need to make more effort, and with the dedication from God, like the tribe of Judah and Joseph, may we also be prosperous as well. Also, after casting lot, and they also distributed according to the number. And number 3, there is the rule of the firstborn. The rule of the firstborn. Now, in the Bible, in Deuteronomy chapter 21, the firstborns receive twofold of blessing. So everyone wants to be firstborn, especially when it comes to faith. We need to be the firstborns of faith in order to receive twofold of blessing. Even in the distribution of land, the firstborn received twofold of blessing. And we can see that through the tribe of Joseph. So Ephraim and Manasseh, these two tribes received the blessing that they conquered the biggest land. The tribe of Joseph, as we know, they were the spiritual firstborn. So if you look at First Chronicles chapter 5 verse 1, one of the following, the inheritance of the firstborn was provided to Joseph in combination of Ephraim and Manasseh, that they created this big land, right? And there was the tribe of Joseph and also the tribe of Judah. They had inherited a big land in the southern part, but Judah, by blood, they actually were the bloodline firstborn. So originally, Reuben was the firstborn. So in 1 Chronicles 5:1, now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but because he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph, the son of Israel. So he is not enrolled in the genealogy according to the birthright. And then from verse 2 as well, it says, though Judah prevailed over his brothers, and from him came the leader, yet the birthright belonged to Joseph. So by blood, Judah carried on his name because he was the fourth son, but spiritually it was given to Joseph. So if you look here to the physical firstborn Judah, he was provided a big land, as well as to the spiritual firstborn, which was Joseph. So even to us, primarily, we must be the firstborn who receives the large land. So now carries the question, we can ask the question, who is the firstborn? What do you think of? Don't think of it complicatedly in the Bible. Our parents, if we look at our genealogy, they have a lot of expectation, as well as their hopes in the firstborn. It's different from you. It's different among the siblings, but it is no longer like that anymore. But the parents' inheritance eventually was provided to the firstborn. And even now, if you look, even to the firstborn, they're giving something special. And what this means is that you need to understand the hearts of the parent. You need to honor your parents, and you need to be able to unite with them. That is what the real firstborn is. So even to Jacob, his firstborn was Reuben, but he hurt his father's heart and he caused grief. And so that inheritance of the firstborn didn't become Reuben's. So even for us as firstborns, we need to be able to understand our parents' heart. So I hope that for you, some of you, your parents are still here. Unfortunately, for some of you, you do not. For me, both of my parents passed away. Yeah, after my mother left, and senior pastor would criticize me because at that point I was an orphan essentially, and told me to stop being ridiculous. But for me, I may have a lot of excuses, but I could not understand my parents' heart well, and I wasn't a good daughter to them. And I wonder if I have the faith good enough to understand the heart of God. Yeah, for all of you here today, I hope that you become firstborns in faith in front of God. So if understanding your hearts, the hearts of your parents makes you the firstborn, then you must be able to do the same for God. So what does it mean to understand the heart of God? That must not be easy, right? How would we know how God feels? But if we are obedient towards the word that He provides us, and if we keep our positions, and if we are always able to strive towards the work of God, that will make us His precious firstborns. So if we look at Genesis 48, verse 8, there is the confession of Joseph. So this was where after Jacob's funeral, his brothers, Joseph's brothers, were afraid because they were the ones who sold Joseph and caused him grief, and they hated him. But now that their father was gone, they were afraid that they were in trouble. But Joseph confessed the following. He said, "Now therefore it is not you who sent me here, but God. And He has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his household and ruler over all the land of Egypt." And then that's how Joseph speaks to his brothers. And this applies for us. There are really bad children, right? They tell your parents, they complain to their parents that they were even born, right? That they were not born pretty enough or smart enough or good enough. And that shocked me. But as I see that, I realize that we're doing the same thing to God, because we say, "God, we're in trouble. Help me. Give me this, give me that." And we ask so much from Him. Now, as you pray, don't you ask a lot? You say you ask for things, but I hope you think about as to what you provided Him. So if you really think about it, we're not able to repay Him back anything for He did for us. And it's hard for us to confess that we can call ourselves His children, right? But we have Jesus, and it is because of Jesus that we have become His children. So, which means that from today, we need to be the firstborns of faith who will be able to understand His heart. So I pray that we will all be able to live as the firstborns. So the Bible is 100% the heart of God. That is why when we love the Bible and read the Bible and study it and research it and draw near to it, we will be the spiritually the firstborns of faith. So I pray that that is applicable for all of us here today. So when we receive the land of heaven, I hope that we will all receive it abundantly. And in order to do that, we need to conquer this land, as well as the new missions that will be provided when we go up to the kingdom of heaven. But on this land, and on this earth, we need to first be able to understand the heart of God, and I hope that we will be able to expand our territory. Big point number 3, when it comes to the process of the division of the land, we need to be able to share. This idea of sharing. Now, in the land of God, in the kingdom of God, even the land that we will be provided, we need to be able to share that. So number 1, now when you look at the 7 tribes, the remaining 7 tribes, they were distributed the land. So there was the tribe of Judah, tribe of Joseph. It wasn't just that, but first there was the tribe of Benjamin. Tribe of Benjamin were in between the land, the tribe of Judah and tribe of Joseph. They received that. So Joshua chapter 18 verse 11. Joshua chapter 18 verse 11. Now the land of the tribe of the sons of Benjamin came up according to their families, and the territory of their lot lay between the sons of Judah and the sons of Joseph. So the sons of Judah and the sons of Joseph, they had divided up their land, but it was in between that the sons of Benjamin went in there to conquer the land that lied between them. So this tells us that tribe of Benjamin were able to settle in the middle because the sons of Judah and the sons of Joseph shared. They were determined to share the land. And because of that it was in between those two tribes that the tribe of Benjamin settled. So after Solomon, the land, the country was divided in two, right? And the tribe of Benjamin joins with the tribe of Judah in the south, and the rest of the other tribes, they were up in north. And this was not a coincidence. Now, the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Joseph, because they shared a part of the land, that is how the tribe of Benjamin was able to settle. And when we say it was because he was the youngest that they felt bad for him. But no. In Numbers chapter 33 verse 12, when Moses was prophesying, it says, they journeyed from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophna. It says they journeyed from Dophna and camped. I'm sorry, I have the wrong verse. But we see that overall, the fact that the tribe of Benjamin settled was due to the love of God, that they were able to settle safely. Now, at the time, the tribe of Judah was the biggest. He was the big brother, right? The firstborn, and Benjamin was able to settle next to him. Now, this was because he had the love of God that they were able to go ahead and settle in such a way. Now, Benjamin, who had the love of God, I pray that we all would be able to do the same. However, the tribe of Judah and tribe of Joseph, because they shared, they were able to go ahead and spread to the tribe of Benjamin, and they share the love. So we must do the same by receiving the love of God and be able to take comfort in Him. And not only that, but tribe of Judah and tribe of Joseph was great. It wasn't that they shared tribe of Benjamin, but it was also the tribe of Dan at the west side that they also shared another part of the land. So if you look in Joshua chapter 18, verse 19, verses 40 and the following, we see how they shared another part of the land. So between these two tribes, there was a tribe of Benjamin, and then towards the west, towards the Dead Sea, that they put the tribe of Dan. And then the other one is the tribe of Simeon. It was actually a land north of tribe of Judah. So there's the tribe of Judah and there's the tribe of Simeon that conquered a part of the land. It would have been great if I had a map, but I don't have it at this moment. So the tribe of Judah, he shared a part of his land to Simeon, right? In the heart of it, honestly. And if you look in Joshua chapter 19, verse 9, it says, the inheritance of the sons of Simeon was taken from the portion of the sons of Judah, because the share of the son of Judah was too large for them. So the sons of Simeon received an inheritance in the midst of Judah's inheritance. So if you look here, the sons of Judah really had a big heart. And even in the midst of that, the people, even though they have a lot, they yearn for more. If they have one, they want two. and at that point they won 4, 8, so on and so forth. So tribe of Judah may have a lot, and if I was them, I don't know about you, but if it was up to me, because I'm so stubborn, I would want everything. But they shared with Benjamin and Dan, and to the tribe of Simeon is located very oddly, that in the heart of it, that they gave a part of their land to the tribe of Simeon. So this tells us that true firstborns have the heart of wanting to share. So even for us, as we live our lives, in order to live as the firstborns of God, we need to be the ones who are able to share. So it's not easy. We believe that we should share, right? We need to be the firstborns who needs the acknowledgement, right? But if it actually happens to you, you yearn for more, right? And you have second thoughts. But when we're filling with grace, I hope that anything is possible for us. I hope we're filling with the grace. What do you think it means to be filling with the grace? What can you do in order to be filling with the grace every day? We may say that person is filling with the grace. He is the one who is that person always prays and praises. Is that an indicator of you being filling with the grace? So don't think of it as complicatedly. It is that he has to cover us with his grace. If that grace is uncovered from us, then we will be revealed. So in the midst of the people's relationship, I need to focus on myself. And if I focus on myself, there is no grace. But the moment that I'm angry, the moment that I'm happy, if I was God, I wonder as to how angry God must have been, as to how forgiving he was, that this word will be mine. Because you all acknowledge that God is love, right? Which means that we need to imitate that. When we are angry, we need to think that first. If I were God, he would forgive, right? And if you think that, then you would forgive as well. And you would pardon as well. That is the life of being filling with the grace. So I hope that this will be applicable for all of us. In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16, do not neglect doing good and sharing, for with such sacrifices God is pleased. Also in 1 Timothy chapter 6:18, instruct them to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share. And in verse 19, is storing up for themselves the treasure of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of which that which is truly life. So in the verse before, in verse 18, it says that you need to be rich in good works, generous and ready to share, right? Storing up for themselves a treasure of good foundation. So this is how you can be filling with grace. And also in Luke chapter 18, verse 22, it says, sell all that you possess and distribute the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. But this young man, he couldn't follow that. So for us today, I hope that we share and distribute and be able to live with others. So some people may say, they may ask, so do you want me to be poor? No, what it means is that when you share, he will fill you with more. Now, I am unworthy, but when I went to theological seminary, I didn't tell my family about it, and I went secretly. And it was a very expensive school that I went to, so I was always worried, right? And I was determined that if I ran out of money, that I would stop going to church. So when I started out evangelist, I quit that and did something else for 10 years. And he told me to go back to theological seminary. And he told me to go to a very unexpected school. And I wondered, and I attended. So I told myself that if I couldn't go to attend the school because I didn't have any money, then that wouldn't really be on me, right? And I was ready. But amazingly, I always had the right amount of money to pay my tuition, which means that as we look at our lives, God will provide what we need. It is just that what we have been provided with, if God sees that we used it for something worthy, He will give us more, and even more after that. But if we don't do that and we only use it for ourselves, then God will hold back from us as well. So as firstborn, if we live the lives of sharing with others, then God will take charge of you. So I pray that we will share and distribute, and I pray this upon you all. Also, as they were distributing the land, there was one tribe that did not receive anything, and that was the tribe of Levites. But they already have received the 49 cities, right? And then in Joshua chapter 21, verse 3, so the sons of Israel gave the Levites from their inheritance these cities with their pasture lands, and according to the command of the Lord. So among the tribes that received the land, they gave to the Levites, especially the sons of Aaron. They gave them the 13 cities. From Dan, Manasseh gave 10 cities from the Kohath, from the other tribes, they gave another 10 cities, and then from Gad, Reuben, Zebulun, and they gave 12 cities. So in total, today, they were served, right? They were provided. So the tribe of Levi overall, at the time, did the work of the sanctuary and the sacrifice. They're pretty much the church educators, right, nowadays. So some people may say, it's great if you're filling with the grace, but when you see these pastors and evangelists, they're pretty much living based on my offerings, right? And they have these things, these kind words to say. And if you have such a thought, then you will not be the firstborns of God, and you will be forfeiting the kingdom of heaven. So this is how it really goes. Whether the tribes liked the Levites and the priests or not, they were still the people doing the works of God, that they left the judgment to God, and they believed that whatever they served to the Levites came to them. So in that sense, I hope that you will serve the church educators and the pastors as well. And that is how the church will grow and be the place that serves God and give worship to God. And please and the church is also a place where you're able to share what you have, right? So in the process where the land of division, the division of the land, there's a lot for us to learn from. And we also know that the tribe of Levites were provided from each of the tribes, and they were filled and provided with what they needed. So to us today, we need to understand as to how we should each live, and as the firstborns, we need to receive the great land. And in order to do that, we need to make many children. We need to make many generations, or a lot of descendants. And to do that, we need to evangelize. And who is the one that is hard to evangelize? Your husbands, right? And your children. Now, you may say, I want to share with you a story. As parents, you would probably understand that it was a couple, right? A mom and a dad who was very diligent in church, and they had one son. Now in Korea, when senior pastor was there, he was always complaining as to why they were sending their children to these expensive after-school programs and tutoring while they didn't do the same thing for church. So there was a high school student who I never saw before, and he said that so his mom came to me and told me that I needed to give Bible study to her son. So we set up a schedule, and I said okay, and I made a promise to her. So that son came in right on time, And upon when it came to its ending, he showed me the time to let me know that the time was approaching. Now, when I asked the children, I would start off by asking what they thought of God, what they thought of church, right? Let's say that if the actual Bible study was 20, 30 minutes. So he would show me the time to indicate that I needed to end. So we promised 12 times, and after 6 times, what he told me was this: Evangelist, my mom and my dad are fake. So I was very pure, and I wondered what he meant. I wondered, is there stepmom, stepdad? And I wasn't sure as to how I should respond. And I said, really, why are your parents fake? And he said, my mom and my dad are very holy in church, but that's not how they are at home. Like, they are worse than some of my friends' parents who do not go to church. So a high schooler was telling me that, and at that moment, that was quite shocking to me. But as I thought about it, nowadays, to evangelize your children, it was very difficult. And to sacrifice your children before God and to make sure that they live according to faith is extremely difficult as well. But that depends as to how you live. If you meet the children, you know as to how their parents live as well. You know, you would be able to determine how their spiritual lives are as well. But if you are acknowledged by your children, then you've succeeded. God will welcome you. God will provide you. So your children, and then your husbands, of course, they know so much that they're not evangelizable, right? But if you evangelize your spouse as well as your children, that family will expand, and there will be peace in their families, that you will be able to evangelize your relatives and your neighbors in order to grow to be the big tribe. So I pray that you will be able to receive the great land from God. So even in this distribution of the land, there is blessing. But also, when you look at the blessing that Levites received, that the tribe of Levites received, for the majority, to become an educator, no one really likes that, to be a church educator, because everyone knows that is a difficult path. And now in our head church, now we lack female evangelists because nobody wants to do it. Now, when senior pastor was here, everyone wanted to do it. And for some people, they wanted to do it, but he wouldn't let them. But nowadays, people really don't want to do it because the world is such a great place to live. There are so many things that you can do and so on and so forth. But because when you are in church like me, you're limited. So when you look at it simply, you may say it would be great if you can be a pastor. The people will serve you and they will honor you and respect you. But if you actually become a pastor, it is so gruesome that some pastors, they actually quit. Now, 30 years ago, when I was in theological seminary, what happened was that when you first go in, there were a lot of people. But after one semester and after vacation, there's only a third left. And then it's filled with new faces. And that is because already in that schooling process is too much. And the number of pastors in Korea, that the newly formed pastors in Korea is about 10,000 a year. But the people who actually practice that is only about 1,000. So there are a lot of pastors, but not enough churches, and even fewer amount of people who are actually practicing. Why? Because it's difficult, it's challenging. So I pray that, so as we look at the tribe of Levites, he gives them special blessing. If so, as you become pastors or missionaries, what happens if we all become pastors and ministers and no saints? We also need saints, and we need to be the saints like the Levites. So we need to be frontiers in serving the church. So among the sons of Aaron, there was a high priest and priest that they conducted the offerings, but there were also the Levites, where during the offerings and the services, there were people who did the prepare for the services as well, and also people under them, right? And there were Gentiles and so on and so forth. But we all need to be the tribe of Levi and serve the church. So of course, when it comes to the high priest and the priests and the Levites, they have their individual roles. And this is the same for the church too. We have the pastors, we have the elders, and as well as the churchgoers. And when we each do our parts, there will be grace that He will provide to each and every one of us. And then Numbers chapter 3, verses 7 to 8. They shall perform the duties for him and for the whole congregation in front of the tent of meeting, to do the service of the tabernacle. They shall also take care of all the furnishings of the tent of meeting, along with the duties of the sons of Israel, to do the service of the tabernacle. So the tribes and so the Levites, they were in charge of the tent of meeting, and God will provide the blessing. And that blessing will be abundance, and He will also break those who obstruct them. So for each and every one of us, we may not all be pastors or evangelists, but when it comes to the roles that we were each provided in the church, I pray that we would do them well in order for the church to run accordingly, and for all of the businesses to run accordingly, and for us to evangelize many people. And when we do what the Levites did, may God be able to give us blessings and the ability to receive the blessings, and He will destroy the enemies who come to attack us. So I pray that first we need to fulfill heaven on earth, so that kingdom of heaven will be ours as well. So as we live our lives on earth as the firstborns, may we be able to think of God and be able to love God as we love our parents, and be able to understand His hearts. And also, may we be able to make even the smallest work in church ours, so that we can we can be a blessing upon the church, so that we can be abundant, and as far as whatever we do, that God be with us, and that if there's any enemies in our path, that He would take care of them. And I pray that this would be upon all of our lives. So that would be heaven for us. He will give us peace and blessing. So in the midst of being able to accept that, may this Evergreen Church be able to grow and be abundant and prosperous, so that the kingdom of heaven will be able to expand and be fulfilled sooner, so that we be able to receive the second coming when He arrives. Thank you. Let us pray. Our beloved Father God, we truly thank You at this time as we live our lives on earth, knowingly and unknowingly, that we believe are the children chosen by You. Furthermore, may we be able to understand You, and as well as Your hearts as Your firstborn. And furthermore, help us to be able to serve the church and work and dedicate ourselves like the tribe of Levites. Father, help us to be able to have abundance and prosperity, and please destroy all of our enemies in our path. And as we live on this earth, help us to be able to receive the kingdom of heaven and be the faithful servants who will expand the territories of heaven. And may we be able to receive the blessing that He gives us, so that we can share and distribute them to many people, and so that we ourselves can be prosperous at this time. Please be with us always. And please listen to our prayers, and in all this, in Jesus' name we pray in thanksgiving. Amen. Thank you.